Okay, so let's start nicely and then get more real what's going on. So I didn't turn off the volume because I want you to hear the voices of the cows too, the cows that are in the field, to realize that they are really intelligent sentient beings that are not different from our dogs or cats or us in aspects that matter the most, which is feeling emotions, feeling pain, and having sentience. So let's watch this a little bit, and I will comment about this man, which is actually very weird. I can't, empathize right now with him because he seems to love these, with being with these cows. At least at the moment, I mean, he's spending some time with them and he's enjoying it. But is he a psychopath? How can he then send these cows to be murdered? That's very weird. I mean, is he enjoying the money that he is getting with the dairy by selling the milk and selling their flesh, their murdered bodies? I mean, I just don't get it. How he can be so happy while knowing what is going to happen to them. And by the way, this is a very rare case. Usually, most of the time, these poor animals are enslaved in confined spaces, but sometimes they let them out like that. But this is very rare. Or if this is a very small business, they can let them out like that. But it is very rare. So let's watch this. You can see that how the mother is worried. I mean, she is watching all the time. I mean, I think she realized some stuff about the man, that she doesn't trust the man because probably she saw maybe that he was stealing some cows. If this is a dairy farm or something like that, it depends. But I mean, she is watching the man and the cow and making sure that everything is all right. Or this guy might be a tool in like an advertisement propaganda that of the farm animal enslavement industry, that saying, oh look, we are playing with our animals and they are so happy. But that might be the case too, because I won't be surprised in such a messed up world that might be the case. But let's give him the benefit of the doubt that he's not a psychopath and he's not getting paid by these cruel industries, but he's just a guy who is just too dumb to realize what's going on. Maybe he's mentally challenged in a way that he's not realizing what's really going on, and he's just playing with these poor animals. So let's go to another one. This is from probably dairy industry. I'm not sure, but they're all being farmed. So not farmed, actually enslaved, because farming is done with plants, and with animals it is enslavement. Okay, so there is a difference with that. So you can see how these animals bond together. They are not different than us or our dogs or cats. They can show affection, they love each other, they have all the emotions that we have. They are not any simpler than us, let's say. They are not less complex than us. They feel as strong as us. The feelings, all the emotions, they are feeling quite similar things. So, if you're a psychopath, then you can't realize, you can't have empathy, so you can't empathize with these animals. But if you're a normal, average person and sincerely look what's going on, put aside your brainwashing through your childhood, all your life, and really sincerely look at these animals, you will realize that they are not really any different from you. And then you see people like that chewing on their bodies, and this is when she's eating it raw and thinking that is something worthy of telling to other people. Look at that. This is a murdered body, and this is a corpse that she's munching on. Yeah, okay. I wouldn't want to be anywhere near this person, but that raises the question that if the majority of the people are eating like that, but they're somehow cooking it, so heating this flesh, so she's eating like that, and they're saying, oh, this is gross, it's just a murdered body, but then heating it makes it any better? It doesn't. But so I'm not also happy about being around other people who are consuming animals or animal products, because you see that's a body, like your body, flesh of a murdered animal, sentient being, because she's consuming the products of torture and enslavement, and she's quite happy about it. So I'm not happy with being around such people. I think she's borderline delusional. And so the meat, the flesh that she just ate, came from this. So let's just silence the sound. This is quite graphic, but you must see this because, okay, so you can blame the guy that he's so violent, but remember, his job is to kill, to murder, to chop sentient beings up, turn them into flesh that this delusional woman was consuming, paying for. So this guy, I'm just assuming that he had a very difficult life. He might be a psychopath, but he might be really traumatized person, that he had to disconnect from his emotions to be able to survive to this job, because he didn't have the integrity, he didn't have the strength, let's say, to say that I'm not going to do this job. I'm not going to be the devil. This is you are agree that this is an evil thing to do, and this guy I think he is also an abused person, like these poor beings that he's abusing, like the karma thing, that he is the victim, and he is having other victims go through the same processes that he went through. And who is to blame here? I mean, if we are trying to fix something here, we need to blame things. Well, someone. We need to blame someone and say, you need to change. You are faulty. You're not right. And we might say, okay, can we say to this guy, don't kill? Well, yeah. Obviously, anyone who is with right mind wouldn't do this job, and he's obviously crazy to some degree. I mean, traumatized or psychopath. But most of the cases, these people are really the victims themselves. They are like traumatized their whole lives. They have never seen any love from others, and they just turn up being like that. It's very sad situation, but that's the case. So can we blame them? I mean, can we just say, oh no, stop killing? I mean, yeah, if everybody refused killing, only the psychopaths will be consuming animal products. But then the question arises, I mean, there will be always psychopaths. They say it's 1% of the population are psychopaths or sociopaths. They don't feel any empathy. They can't empathize, and they can do such cruel acts, even if they are not traumatized, because they don't have the capacity. Or sometimes they say because they were traumatized at very young age, they turn out to be psychopaths. And they say most of the time that's the case, but still, even if it is one person in 10,000 cases, let's say, in the population are psychopaths, then you can always find people who can do that. And if you can't find psychopaths to do such a job, you can just automate it. Okay, so you can always just build a robot that can murder these poor innocent animals, these victims, these enslaved animals. So the conclusion is that blaming him wouldn't change anything what these animals are going through, the murder and all this stuff. I mean, you have to stop that. I mean, the consumers, who is paying for this? And that's what we need to address. And everybody knows this in animal liberation community. Animal rights activists. Everybody knows this. But we don't blame these people directly, because we know that they are really the victims too. Well, yeah, they are evil, but I mean, who is enabling this? I mean, he doesn't have any power, right? He is just a slave working for you, consumers of these corpses, flesh, dairy, whatever the animal products you are consuming. So my point is that you have to, if you are not vegan, you have to make the connection that, you know, these animals, let me show you again so you remember, because I know many of you don't have much, you know, you don't have the habit of connecting stuff with one another. You tend to ignore and forget, and, you know, live in delusions. So I'm just showing you again to connect, to really like raise awareness, so you really know what's going on. So this is these are animals, and then, you know, these are again animals. Okay, and then you pay people to, you see the blood flowing, so they are going to their death. You might say, why this guy is not treating these poor animals better? Well, he's going to kill them. How would you expect him to treat them? You want him to be hypocrite, like behaving like he is a very kind person and then murdering them? He is at least being honest that, you know, he has aligned his feelings towards these animals, that he is going to murder them, and that's why he is behaving like that, because he at least has, I give him that he at least has this integrity, that he will not be a hypocrite. He accepts that I have been forced to be an evil person in this life, and I am doing that. I am the evil. I'm the devil here. He's at least admitting that he's not behaving as hypocrite, like, right? As many of you are. So in this respect, I can respect him more than many of non-vegans that are hypocrites. Okay, so yeah, and then, you know, this woman is consuming this. You might say, oh, this is gross, but you are doing the same thing. It's just cooked. So what's the difference? I mean, if you just put some heat, some of the bacteria dies, but the animal flesh is the same. It's the animal flesh. Oh, so happy. Wow. Okay, so the real psychopath in this story is not this guy here. The real psychopath is this woman who is paying for this to happen. And the real psychopath is you, if you are not vegan and hearing this message and being aware of all this stuff that I just told you, and still not feeling anything, and can still you know, keep consuming these animal products, but you might not be, maybe you're not a psychopath, maybe you are just too weak to change, because it takes also integrity to change. If you are an addict, if you don't have any other you know, if you don't have any other pleasures in this life, and you're too weak that you have been addicted to animal products, and they are addictive. Cheese, you know, they all have morphine like substances in them, case of morphine, etc. Like they have addictive substances in animal products, especially milk, dairy, and more in cheese because it's concentrated dairy. So the question is, are you weak? Are you a psychopath? Or are you going to be a vegan? It all comes to that. Yeah, you might be a traumatized person. Maybe you don't have, you don't feel the compassion. Maybe you feel, but you refuse to feel the compassion because you feel that it is weak to feel compassion. But that's all being part of traumatized person, because you you have learned not to feel compassion or reject compassion because the whole society, they said they told you that when you feel compassion you are weak, but that's not true. But so let's say you wanted to protect something, and when you want to protect something you feel compassion, and when you were young, if they took that thing away from you and you couldn't protect that, and you somehow lost that thing that you love, you might develop some trauma, and that becomes your weakness, and that becomes you don't want to feel compassion anymore, and you see compassion as a weakness because you lost when you were when you felt compassion. You were not powerful enough to protect what you loved, and you had a trauma because you lost what you love. And from now on you might say, oh, I will focus on my pleasures, I will not care about other life, etc. You become an egoist, selfish bastard, basically. But the real case is that is can you go back to what you were like before losing what you loved? Can you really go back to that state and realize that the real strength comes from protecting what you love? And then you can say, it's not a strength to give up. So when you lost your loved one, for example, or something that you valued, it is not a solution to say, yeah, okay, so I give up everything that I value. That's how I find power, because I'm going with the flow. So that's not something, that's a very weak thing to do. And many people are buying into that they are seeing weakness as power by going along, and they have to somehow turn this around, fix this thing, this trauma in them. And that's the definition of trauma. And then they can't be happy, and then they seek happiness in other things because they know that they have lost. They are the losers because they have they couldn't be able to protect what they loved, and that became their personality. And that's the whole story of this humanity, I think, that we have lost. Everybody only have their loved ones, they love something, they value something, and we can't always protect them, and we lose. And it's psychological tendency to say, okay, then I don't care about anything, and that's how I become powerful. So that's how I become in control, by becoming the devil, basically. So that is the definition of trauma. And for example, perfect examples, this woman, heavily traumatized. The other guy who is murdering these beings, heavily traumatized. You who are non-vegans, killing, paying for the murdered bodies, flesh and dairy and eggs, etc., all the animal products, leather, fur, etc. You are heavily traumatized. Maybe of course you don't want to accept it, but if you really want to do good in this world, if you really want to heal, you have to accept it. But I can't make you accept it. You have to go deeper into your thoughts and figure it out yourself, because what I am saying right now is the case. It is what is going on, and it is up to you to realize that it is happening to you, to turn it around and make things better, to heal the world as much as we can. So thank you very much for listening, and go vegan, watch Dominion 2018 documentary, see what's going on to these poor animals, what we are doing to them as a whole. Humanity is it is this like terrible. It is more than terrible. It is the worst that we imaginable thing that we could do to other beings, enslaving them and murdering them and separating them from their loved ones, stripping their lives, rights from their of living. So this is the hell on earth that we have to fix. We have to undo by overcoming these traumas. And it is very easy for for many people, for non-vegans, to just go along with your traumas because that's the way of path of the least resistance. But that's, again, you are just being weak. You are not showing any resistance. You are just following a thing that it is wrong, but you are fooling yourself, like this woman or the other guy who was murdering these poor animals. Okay, yeah, and see you in another video.